Okay. So it's 3:05. Let's go ahead and get started because I know everybody's ready to go ahead and go about their day. They're ready to start their day in Hawaii, and we're ready to have our afternoon on the East Coast. So hi, everybody. Welcome back to another hashtag collections battle. This is put on by the Pillsbury TCN, and we're really, really excited for this month's collection battle. So the collection battles are where we put two museum collections that are put to the test, and we see what kind of cool stuff they have inside of their collections. I personally guarantee that you will learn something new. So my name is Chandra Earl. I am the host for this collections battle, and let's get started. So first things first, our first contender today is going to be Noreen Yeung from the Malacology Department of the Bernice Pauahi Bishop Museum in Honolulu, Hawaii. Nori received her PhD from the University of Hawaii, where interestingly enough, she did not study snails, but actually seabirds. She has since come to her senses and started working on mollusks and has been working at the Bishop Museum as curator of malacology for about 2.5 years now. So we're very, very happy that she's here to join us and kind of show, bring Hawaii's mollusks to the test. And secondly, right down here, our other contender is Dr. Taewon Lee, the mollusk collection manager and associate research scientist at the University of Michigan Museum of Zoology. He received his master's from Sungki-Young Kwan University in South Korea and his PhD from the University of Michigan. So his research has been typically focused on freshwater fingernail clams, interestingly enough. And we're really excited to have you both here. So thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to kind of do this with your collections. So for those of you who haven't been here before or joined us, this game is played in 3 rounds. For each round, I will give our 2 contenders a theme or a topic. They then have to go into their collections and find the most interesting item that falls under that theme or topic. So something that either looks really cool or has a fascinating story. So whatever they think will put them a step above their opponent. And at the end, I'll put this into your guys' hands, and you guys will vote for who you think wins this particular collection battle. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? All right, so if anybody has been outside lately, I'm sure you've noticed that it is summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere, and that means it is HOT hot. So since the Earth orbits the sun in an elliptical path, there are 2 times a year when the Earth is at its very, very furthest from the sun. These are called the June and December solstices. So again, if you're located in the Northern Hemisphere, the June solstice, which typically occurs right around June 21st, marks a couple of different things. This date is typically known as the first day of summer and is in fact the longest day of the year. In fact, the word solstice comes from the Latin word sol, meaning sun, and sistere, meaning stand still. And so this is the only day in the year that the sun does not set in the Arctic Circle for a full 24 hours. This phenomenon is actually called the midnight sun, and this day actually also marks plenty of sort of sun celebrations around the world, celebrating the beginning of summer and the heat. So for this topic, I've asked both of our collections to tell us about a method that snails or any kind of mollusk use to keep cool, since of course most snails, but not all, prefer to stay out of the sun. How do they keep themselves from drying out, and how do they ensure their survival under the sort of really, really intense heat and desiccation stress? So Nori, why don't you go ahead and go first with this one?
All right, so actually I have 2 examples.
Hey, Chandra, hold on just a second.
Yes, Kim.
Is it possible for you to hide your sort of view, because it's blocking partial of the screen, your participant view when you're recording or sharing screen?
I mean, that's kind of the point that we're all there, but I can.
So can you move it so that we can see the screen, because we can't see the screen when you're sharing. So it's okay now, but when you're sharing full screen, it blocks, but it's fine.
Okay, just let me know.
All right, so everybody can see that?
Yes.
All right, so in Hawaii, there are consistent differences among our limpet species, which we call opihi in the shape of their shells. So here, we have the high shore limpet, Selena ixorata, and it has a significantly taller shell than the species found in the lower shoreline, just like Sunmanchiensis. And so the increase in the ratio of volume to evaporative surface area with taller limpet is a buffer to thermal and desiccation stress, allowing them to endure a longer duration of elevated temperature. And here, just wanted to show you the difference of the high spireness. And then also for land snails in general, to prevent drying out, creates a mucus plug or an epiphragm. See that? It can be thin and clear, like on this highly invasive, this Achatina folica or giant African snail, or some other snails create a very dense and hard to remove plug. So this guy here has been estivating with this epiphragm for a few days in the collection here. And yes, he is alive.
How long can snails typically stay in estivation?
It really depends on the species. So with the highly invasive species, they can estivate for a very, very, very long time. I think apple snails can go for a couple of years, hunkered in underground until the waters come. These guys, we've known them to estivate for several months just in the lab. So that's why it makes them very good invaders, because they can survive.
So snails that can typically do this kind of thing have a higher chance of survival in really, really hot climates like Hawaii, right?
Okay, Taewon, what you got?
Okay.
All right, Taewon.
Right. Can you see my snails?
Let me switch to you, sir. All right, go for it.
Okay, so, well, one of the ways snails stay cool is having white shell color. A pale shell reflects sunlight and helps the animal to maintain a lower body temperature. But, one added benefit is that maybe because of the shell color, they can survive the extinction. Okay, so what I have here is Pacific Island tree snail species, Patula hyalina. You may have heard, Patula snails in the previous collection battles and how they became victims of ill-managed biological control. Since the introduction of these guys here, Zoology wolf snails in 1970s, many Patula snails have been extirpated or completely extinct in the wild. So, however, these Patula hyalina have survived on the island of Tahiti. One of the reasons for this is due to their shell color. As you can see, while other Patula species you see here have mainly darker brown shell color, these Patula hyalina have distinctly white shells. Also notice their predator, the Zoology wolf snails, also have darker colored shells. So if these white-shelled snails can tolerate more sunlight than their predators, they are able to persist in sunlit habitats. Well, a very cool study has been done and testing this hypothesis by a former University of Michigan PhD student, Cindy Big, together with engineering researchers. Well, first of all, the engineers developed a super tiny computing system, small enough to put on a snail directly. They then tested the sensors using local Michigan snails in Ann Arbor and then flew to Tahiti. There, the tiny computers were attached to the rhodiope snail directly and to the leaves of Patula hyalina used for shelters. Well, the reason was because since Patula hyalina is a protected species, they were not allowed to attach the sensors directly to the Patula hyalina shells. Anyway, the data shows that the habitat prepared by Patula hyalina received 10 times more sunlight than the predator Euglendina rosea. Obviously, the white shell color not only keep them cool, maybe they can save from the extinction.
Wow, that's really cool. So do you think that over time, with climate change and everything, that snails will have lighter and lighter shell colorations?
Well, shell coloration is only one of many reasons. The Patula hyalina also display higher fecundity, so they lay more eggs than compared to other Patula snails. So it's the combination of many other reproductive mode and their shell color variation. But the cool thing about this study is actually using the small tiny computer, they were actually collected the real-time data from the moving snail.
How small were these computers?
Well, it's millimeter size. So 2 millimeters by 3 millimeters and 4 millimeters, something like that. So it's world's smallest, computer. It's not just a sensor, it's a computer. It's a solar energy activated, so it can go on forever. And then, transmit the data to, the laptop computers. So the engineers brought these sensors, this computer, and laptop computer collected, the real-time data from the snail from the computer, directly.
That's really, really cool. What kind of future studies do you have past this?
Well, in terms of the utilizing that small computer, now the researchers trying to monitor migrating the butterfly, populations, and also the recognizing the, what is that? Honeybee is a bee, facial recognition, kind of thing. They are trying to apply this technology to, that kind of interesting studies.
It's amazing what we can accomplish when departments work together, right?
Exactly.
All right. Moving on to our next. So question real quick, can everybody see, so I know everybody can see my screen, but can people see the participants as well on this, or what can you guys see? Because ideally you should see both.
We can see both. It's just that your participant screen cuts off about a quarter or
right.
farther.
Right, and that's fine. I kind of made this slide so that it would be okay with that. But okay, thank you guys. All right, round number 2. So June, of course, is famously known for being Pride Month. So Pride Month, of course, honors the LGBTQ+ community and commemorates the Stonewall riots, which occurred at the end of June 1969. They occurred in protest of a police raid on a gay nightclub in New York City because homosexuality was illegal there at the time, as was serving LGBTQ patrons alcohol and dressing as a member of the opposite sex. So since these riots, June has been, of course, known as Pride Month, and now we have events like Pride pride parades and celebrations. So this is the current pride flag and represents, the sort of spectrum of human sexuality and gender. But it didn't actually always look like this. When it was originally created in 1978, it actually had 8 colors, and each color had a specific meaning assigned to each of the colors. So of course, pink was had this meaning of sex. Red was life. Orange was healing, and they had all the colors had a specific meaning. And of course, this flag has changed over time due to various reasons and to import more inclusivity. So for this category, in honor of Pride Month, I've asked our collections to find me a colorful specimen or a colorful object within their collection. So this can be anything as long as it's as colorful as possible. So we're going to, since we started out with Dr. Young last time, we're gonna go ahead and go to Dr. Lee this time.
I'm still going back to my office.
No worries. It's fun to see the inside of the museum while you walk inside of the collections, because not everybody is lucky enough to get inside the collections.
Almost there. So
no worries.
Okay. So here I selected the most obvious one. Do you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, these are, Cuban native snails, land snail genus Polymita. They are known to be the world's most beautiful snails. As you can see, their shells are beautiful colors from whitish brown, yellow, almost pink, red, and dark brown. Some have white stripes, some with dark stripes, and others with both. This amazing color variation occurs among species as well as within a single species. So, however, like many other land snails, the local painted snail populations were destroyed by deforestation, predation by invasive species, and climate change. In addition to all this, for these guys, their beauty makes them so attractive to many people. So they have been over-collected for a long time. So unfortunately, they are now critically endangered. But beautiful.
Is this box one species?
Well, supposed to be, but
wow.
This particular box doesn't really have any further information. So potentially, this may have been collected illegally and smuggled long time ago. Well, it's long time ago, so back then there's no concept of that. But it may be collected by a shell collector and donated to the museum. This is one of our educational collection. And whenever I show this to any general public, they are so amazed by the colors.
They're very
That's
beautiful.
why I think it's a lot.
They're very, very beautiful. And these are Cuban, right?
Yep.
And very illegal to collect now. That's what happens when over collecting happens, right?
Exactly.
Very sad. All right, I'll switch it over to Nori.
All right, so it's my turn. So I do have some of the Cuban snails, but that is not what I am choosing for today. But I just wanted to show you that it was very, 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 very hard to pick something to see if I could destroy Taiwan. And maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but thank you to the cultural collection here, where they gave me an in-house loan just for this battle today. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
So this is a Hawaiian shell necklace or a lei. And this is Queen Liliuokalani's lei. She was the last monarch of the Hawaiian kingdom until its overthrow in 1893. These acatenellas, this lei here is over 100 years old. And the acatenella species are endemic to the island of Oahu in Hawaii. There were once about 41 species, but unfortunately, more than 75% of them are already extinct. And the Hawaiians thought of land snails as auspicious, a sign of change, and held with great respect. And these snails were not killed for their pretty shells, but a lot of these lei or necklaces were made from dead ground shells, as you can see here. And so, as many of you know, snails are actually born with their shell, right? So unless you pick them up dead, you have to kill the snail for their beautiful shell. And even though this is a 100-year-old lei, you can still see the beautiful colors of these species that once were on all of these trees on Oahu. They were so numerous that they were saying that they're like grapes on a tree, just ripe for the picking. And so with habitat destruction, invasive species, and also over collecting, a lot of these are no longer here. And you can see the beautiful greens, these cone-like shaped shells. I love ice cream, so that's how I describe them. So this one is like a mint chocolate swirl. And then you have these beautiful ones that looks like caramel swirls in vanilla and mocha, right? And can you just imagine how beautiful and vibrant these colors were when they were alive? And so these are a lot of times the last memories of some of these extinct species that we have to try to protect the ones that are still alive so that their colors remain bright and vibrant in our forests.
That is absolutely gorgeous. It's amazing how well preserved this is too.
Yeah.
You don't usually like the outsides rub off.
Yeah, so the outer layer is what they call the periostracum, which is an organic layer. And so, yeah, it does fade because you no longer have a live animal continuing that organic layer to persist. And so, yeah, those are the first things that start to fade. So again, you know, just imagining how vibrant these browns and whites and greens used to be hanging on the leaves of trees. And so the story goes that Queen Liliuokalani would tour all of these different islands. And so when she toured Oahu, the different districts would gift her with one of these shells that were found in their valleys. So this is in many ways a representative of all the Acatenella species, you know, that were found on Oahu, with the majority of them all extinct now.
Very gorgeous. You'll have to thank ethnology for us.
Oh, I will.
It's amazing.
Yes, this definitely has to go back into their collection after this battle.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very impressive. All right. Okay, for our last theme, June was actually the Queen's official birthday. So now this day is a little bit interesting because it does not necessarily correspond to the date of the monarch's actual birth. It is usually celebrated on a date that has a higher chance of nice weather in the Northern Hemisphere again. So this means this date is actually, again, different depending on what country is doing the celebration for whom. So for example, the United Kingdom celebrates Queen Elizabeth II's birthday the second Saturday of June, when her actual birthday is April 21st. So her birthday parade is known as the Trooping of Color, which I thought was fitting given our last category and her manner of dress, where she gets a flyby by the Royal Air Force and a 41-gun salute. So for this last theme, I'd like our collections to go ahead and find me a specimen that was collected on their birthday or within their birthday month and tell us a bit more about it. All right. So Nori, you can go ahead and go first this round if that's okay.
Sure. All righty. So we have here, you guys can see, Laminella venusta. It is endemic to Molokai. You can see the beautiful zigzag patterns, a little bit blurry, of these guys. They were collected on my birth month, and they were thought to be extinct from Molokai. The last time it was seen was in the 1940s or so, but with collaborators and the help of the data that was digitized in this collection that helped us build a treasure map of areas that they once were. After resurveying some of these areas, in 2018, they were discovered alive. Unfortunately, it's only one location on the island of Molokai, but hey, it's not extinct. So over 50 years, they were thought to be extinct because nobody was looking for them because they thought they were gone. But they were still hanging on. And so these are live. We have a live captive rearing facility in Bishop Museum. This is basically our lifeboats of some of the remaining land snails that we have in Hawaii. And so to make sure that they persist and not become just a memory in a collection, we have these captive rearing programs to make sure that they are well taken care of. And this also allows us to study their life history. What foods do they eat? How fast do they reproduce? Do they have only one baby at a time? All of those information is really important for the conservation and how to conserve our remaining species, whether it's in Hawaii or the Pacific Islands or elsewhere in the world. So, aren't they really cute? And this really holds really dear to me because, like I said, everyone thought it was gone. We used to have 12 species in this genus Laminella. And a couple of years ago, we only thought there was only one left. So basically, if that was gone, Sanguinea, the genus would be extinct. But we found another species, this one on Molokai. Is it coming out? Oh, yes. He is coming out. Good morning. Isn't he cute? Well, I think he's cute.
It's amazing how different like their colors are versus like live and preserved.
Yeah, well, some of them still have those ziggy-zaggy patterns, but you can see in the collection that they come in all type of patterns, right? Mm. So there are some of the solid ones. This is Sanguinea. So this is the one that is still alive that we know of on the island of Oahu. There's only one population left. And then so these guys, we were so happy to know that they were still alive on Molokai just a couple of years ago. So really, really cool. That's my February story.
They're very cute. Look at them.
You might be a little biased, Chandra.
I'm trying to not be, but I just freak. Look at it. I just freak out over
and here's animals. A baby. See, that's the baby. Oh, that's more like a teenager.
It's a good thing I'm not voting. Oh my gosh.
Let's see if I can find a baby that's really tiny. Anyways, yeah.
Anyway,
so that's my story.
Thank you. Okay. All right, Taewon, want to go ahead and give us your birthday specimen, sir?
Okay. So.
Are you ready to go?
Okay, so here I have Asian clam Cubicula. As you can see, they were collected on May 18th, 2016 by me and 4 other colleagues, 2 from University of Michigan, the other 2 from Illinois Natural History Survey. Well, unlike the previous examples, the victims of invasive species, these freshwater clams are actually invasive to North America. They are native to Asia, Africa, Australia, but first recorded in the Western US around 1920s. And now they occur not only in North America, but Central and South America and Europe, which means they are pretty much everywhere. The reason I picked these specimens are, of course, first, they were collected in my birth month, May, right? Mm-hmm. And then these guys are actually a novel cubicular lineages recently invaded to the US. Bad news, right? Mm-hmm. Up until Kevin Cummings' team in Illinois Natural Service, Natural History Survey noticed them in Illinois River and collected this, cubicula. Only 2 lineages of cubicula have been reported in the US. So this makes the 3rd cubicula invasive lineages. Obviously, they keep coming. Okay.
How widespread do you think they'll be in a few years?
Well, this particular one, we don't know yet because it's been collected from that small section of Illinois River. Mm-hmm. Based on the previous record and previous lineages, sometimes it is difficult to breach some barriers, but once they overcome there, they can be everywhere. So one of the lineage is from disputed from up in northern Michigan to all the way down to Argentina. So it's pretty much the whole Americas their distribution now. The other one is more southern, restricted to the southern North America, but based on who knows if they can.
How does something, because you said this was from Asia, right?
From Illinois River.
But it was originally from Asia, right? How does something like this get to Illinois?
Well, probably human.
Humans?
As you noticed that it was first recorded from Western US, where a lot of Asian people migrated to, and probably they brought this with them as a food item.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are. The cubicula soup is very, very delicious.
I can't say I've ever had them, but I believe you. Okay. All right. Remove that. Switch on over. All right. So those are our 3. Those are going to be our 3 topics, and we've had presentations by both of our collections. So I am going to go ahead and start the voting now. If I can pull up the poll. So you guys are going to go ahead and vote for who you think won. I have gone ahead and thrown up both, all 3 of our emails on the screen. If you guys do have any more questions or you'd like to reach out to any of us for anything, I'm sure we're happy to hear from you and happy to answer any kind of questions that you have. So I will leave this open for, maybe a minute or so, and we'll go ahead and see who won.
What do you mean panelists and hosts can't vote?
You can't vote, I'm sorry. It's like I'm biased, you guys are biased.
I'm not.
Does anybody have any questions while we go ahead and wait for a couple minutes or comments. Who is next week? Do we know? Or next month?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not listed on the
I'm checking.
channel.
I'm checking. Next month is July. It is, ANSP versus the Field Museum. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's going to be a good one because the Field Museum and ANSP are always really, really fun people.
What? Are you saying Tijuana and you are not fun people?
That's not what I said. Putting words in my mouth, man. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to pull up the results. Da, da, da. Okay. So this month's winner is going to be Bishop Museum. It's going to be Nori. So congratulations to Nori, but thank you again for both of you guys for participating in this. I really, really appreciate it. Nori, don't be too hard on Taiwan.
No, he had some really cool specimens.
You guys both had some really cool specimens.
And good stories. Thanks, Randra. This was fun.
Yes. All right, we'll see you guys.
Live, snails, nobody can beat that. I have to admit that. And you did a good job saving those snails.
Got to bring out the big guns.
Yeah, especially against you guys. My goodness.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all again for joining us this month, and we'll see you again next month for our next month's collection battle. Thanks, guys.
All righty. See you, everybody. Have a good day.